Alright, so I got a RFQ from one of my customers to machine all these components for this assembly. And originally I told them that I wouldn't be able to machine that large plate at the bottom because it was too big for my CNC mill. But they came back and said that the tolerances weren't too critical on the outside profile of that part. So then I said, well, yeah, I could make that for you. I can machine it on my manual mill, right? So I went ahead and quoted the job and got it. Then it came time to machine this big plate, and I realized this plate's too big for my manual mill too. So I could get the bolt patterns done by doing a little bit of shiftaroo here and there, machining some of the holes, moving the plate, picking up the location of one of the holes that was already drilled and drill some more holes, But I couldn't machine some of the lengths, like those angle cuts were longer than the travel that I had on the machine, and then also the overall length and all that. So I needed to figure out another solution, and what I came up with was cutting that profile with a Skilsaw. Doing some ultra precision work with my Skilsaw. Now what I did was I went and I got a blade that's made for cutting, metals and stuff like that. It's a pretty expensive blade, but they do make them for the Skilsaw to be able to cut metal. And then what I did was I did my layout, on the plate so that I knew where my cuts needed to be. And I set up a guide for the Skilsaw. Because if you try and just cut it with that Skilsaw on down that line that you scribed, it could walk on you, or it could grab and do some funkaroo stuff that you don't really want, So I clamped on some material as a guide for the Skilsaw, and I just pushed that saw against that material onto the plate and just moved it on down and cut off the pieces that I needed. Now, it wasn't super precise, but cuts came out all right and it looked all right. Just did a little bit of deburring and blending afterwards. Now, after I got the profile cut and I got all the holes drilled in there, there was one large hole that I needed to make, and I figured what I'd do is I'd drill it out with a large drill and then use a boring head and step it up and do it like that. But what I found out was I was taking quite a bit of time, more time than I wanted, right? Figured, well, I'll rough it out with this shell mill, right? I already got a hole in the center there, so that doesn't need to be center cutting. And I'll just take this big shell mill and rough that hole up larger and save myself some time, right? So that's what I did. Put that shell mill in there, opened that hole up, and then I went and I grabbed a boring head, and I was going to step it up to size with the boring head, but I wasn't able to run it as fast as I wanted to on the Bridgeport, and it was taking forever, and I was like, this is not going to work out, So eventually I thought, well, even though this big plate is bigger than what my CNC mill can handle, I'm only moving a little bit inside that hole. I only need a little bit of travel to machine that center hole there. And I should be able to position this plate inside that mill and get that hole made, right? So that's what I did. Threw it on in the mill, and then I machined that hole up to size, and that finished off this plate. And there you have it, finished big plate that got made on the Bridgeport and the CNC mill combined. And then I made all those other pieces and got this job done. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one and take it easy.